all three of us here are givers, right? We're starting off with the assumption and the expectation that we want to do our best. And all we want to do is just to find people that we can do our best for, right? I think that is 100%, 1000% what we want to do. However, right, as we have evolved through life, we realize that not everyone, right, is deserving of that treatment. Not everyone wants to reciprocate that treatment, right? And also the path to building up anybody to be that kind of reciprocal friendship that is so deep and so giving on both sides, it's a very long journey to get there. So, welcome to the Level Up With Us podcast. Today we have amazing guests with us, Kunal, who's joining us all the way from India. And I think this is actually going to be a really exciting topic for a lot of us because I think as we've leveled up and grown in our lives, the type of friends that we've kept have changed over the course of time, right? How we show up to our friends has also changed. So I'm really excited to have this conversation together with Kunal and Jessica, our other co-host. And I think, Kunal, maybe you can take it away first by introducing yourself a little bit, who you are, where you're from, and what does relationship with friends mean to you?
Thanks for having me here, Jessica and Conrad. Originally from India, and I'm working professional. I moved for work as well in Singapore, and was working for past few years in Singapore as well. And just recently, I came back, returned to India, and started to work. And I have seen a lot of differences of how I have personally grown and how people around me, both in Singapore and my friends over here, they have grown. And it was a pretty interesting and pretty good journey that I had gone through. And let's see if we can, try to capture some bits of it today. Uh, for me, like I have tried to keep a relationship where I want to give them as much as the time as I can. So that's one of the precious resources that I have personally, and I believe to have a good friendship. And when I say time, it's like attention and all those things comes with that factor. Uh, the intention being that valuable resource, if you're able to give it to somebody, that itself says a lot about the fact that this is a friendship that you want to cherish. So that's how I usually look at my any relationship, not just friendship as well. So
Mm, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kunal, for sharing that. And yeah, I mean, I think like it's really important to also note that like the purpose of this podcast is to share like different perspectives we have on a topic, right? In this case, relationship with friends, because we want to share with people like that there's many ways to see a specific situation depending on your upbringing, right? You're from India, I'm from Canada, Jessica's also from Canada, right? And we all have different upbringings that have shaped the way that we think and also different experiences, right? We've all found ourselves in Singapore at some point in time, which is also amazing. But yeah, before I jump too much into all that, maybe Jessica, you can also give us a brief sharing of what relationship with friends means to you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting because when Kanal mentioned time, I was like, oh, yeah, time is important. But I think what was more important for me in my friendships, at least now and not before, realized was is really that sincerity and that camaraderie that I have with my friends. Is like even if I moved away from home to Singapore, so then all my friends from back home in Canada, when I see them or when I talk to them, it's like there was no time between the last time we talked and this time. So I think for me now, a relationship with friends is more like, oh, sincerity, camaraderie, and how well you guys kind of click. I think. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Like to me, it seems like, both of you guys are very much focusing on like the commitment that you guys have together, right? I think from Kunal's perspective, like commitment to him is the time, right, that you spend. And to Jessica, it seems like, for you, the commitment is how close you are, right? In the sense of camaraderie and how much you click, which again, I think we'll go deeper into that. Like, what does clicking mean to you, right? But yeah, I think that's super interesting. And maybe to share a bit about my perspective on this as a starting point, I think my take on relationship with friends has changed a lot over the years. I think when I initially, started making friends, right, which is like back in childhood and stuff like that, it really hurt whenever you lost a friend, right? It's like, hey, friends are someone like that you wanted to keep forever. It's like, oh, you are my best friend forever, and like really trying to find people that were going to join you on this journey of life was really important for me. But then as I grew up, I realized that not every single person is going to fit that to the highest degree. Some people are good friends that you see once in a while to have, a drink, right? And to go out for a meal. Some people are great to have deeper, meaningful conversations. Some people are going to help add value to your life in many different ways that you're never going to even see before. And of course, some people will be, lifelong friends, right? And partners. So I think for me, like learning how to segregate that and be okay with the fact that not everyone's going to be like the highest tier of friendship, or it takes time to cultivate that necessarily. And then also recognizing like what's important for me in a friendship, and that's also changed as I've evolved in my own growth journey, right? Sometimes at some point I just wanted someone around, right? Someone to be there. At some points I just wanted someone to talk to. At some points I wanted them to listen. Sometimes I wanted the advice. Like there's so many different ways that I think you can approach friendships. So I think that's really how it changed for me.
Thanks for sharing. It kind of sounds like that. It sounds like different friends kind of have different discussion topics with you. And for the lack of a better word, they serve different purposes. Although I don't want to make it sound so transactional, but am I understanding it right? Like different friends, because you have different interests. So then it would consequently kind of lead to you guys doing different things and then having different purposes to be friends.
I think that's really interesting because I know a lot of people who are very deliberate in segregating their friend circle. Like, hey, this is my friend circle that's like work friends, right? These are my friend circles that are like, play, and chill. Like, there's so many different groups of people that they kind of separate and they never let those groups mix. I don't like that personally. I rather like all my friends know each other and all of them like are really happy together and can, hang out. And I think more of what I'm trying to say is just like the depth of that friendship may vary. And and it took me a long time to be okay with recognizing that that depth needed to be built over time, right? And also with the right people. Some people aren't ready for that kind of depth of friendship. Some people are more, hi bye, we'll hang out once in a while. And that's okay, right? But when I was younger, it was just hard for me to understand that. And also recently, I had to learn like that, hey, even if I went, the all the way with a friend, like, we were very deep friends and we were able to build a good relationship, that can also go away, right? Because of whatever reasons that can happen. And I guess I'm curious, like for Kunal, like you've moved countries so much now, right? You've gone from India to Singapore, now back to India. How have you maintained friendships? I think first and foremost, and do you find that, when the distance, how's distance change your friendships too? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe like the way that things have changed, it's especially with the fact that not a lot of friends are actually in the same place. So even though I am originally born in the east of India, but the fact that I have pretty much one or two friends that is still remaining constant friend within the city itself. Rest all of them have moved out of the city for a better opportunity, better studies opportunity, whatever be the case. It's definitely feels very like now the distance is by default gonna be there. It's not that I'll find, for example, my childhood friends over there. Same goes with my college. College was not it was not in a, I would say, city per se where there are job opportunities there. People you'll find them after the work as well. All everybody moved out, all dispersed around, and like by default, distance were added, especially with the different diverse backgrounds that everybody had moved into. So the way that I believe, at least from my side, again, maybe that is a little bit of controversial as well as at least a few years back. Okay, let I have a change of my perspectives recently along how I actually manage it. Until a few years back, my intention of friendship was quite purely per se word transactional, in the sense that the fact that we are going through together this phase of life. Let's just enjoy it if it's enjoyment, support each other if it's support. So let's go through it together. And it's not like I have a lot of expectations from in the other person. So that I had, and like some bits of it I still maintain. But the idea is it's like I'm not gonna be like very much persistent with the fact that we have to remain in connect throughout our lives. I kind of help that I really, because it's just that I not feel bad about the fact that okay, yikes, I did not talk to this person for a long period of time, and oh my god, this is my bad, or I feel guilty about it. Coming back again, like now in the recent years, coming back to India as well, I can be connected, and it was like few years outside I was, and like after connecting with a lot of folks, and I used the last year quite a lot extensively to kind of reach out to my childhood friends and reach out to those folks which I just pure reasons of just connecting, just seeing where you are, what you're doing, if everything is good or not. So the intentions are, it's good that I, first of all, everybody appreciating the fact that, when somebody is taking an effort. And I really appreciate them also to kind of, out of nowhere, this guy is coming back and like talking to me about it. It would have been like 3 years, 5 years, maybe, that they haven't like looked at me, like haven't faced talked to her, and any form we haven't had any communications. Uh, but recently I'm like, uh, trying to set up this whole coming back to India, trying to imbibe to the culture, community, uh, trying to reconnect, face time with friends. It's been not, I would say again, the fact that everybody has created their own society, communities around them. They have already well established setups, and like it's not easy, and I'm aware of it, the fact that it's not like I want to be fully involved in your life on daily basis as well. Obviously I have to be cognizant of that fact. uh but I did realize the growth level, there has been difference in how we have grown based on like the experiences all of us individually had. I've seen the difference in growth, and I'm happy about it as well. The fact that it's just not because of we have to be friends, if anything, because of the shared past. There is something that we are forcing in each other, that we can. Oh, I'm very much interested and curious about your aspects, like how you have grown. Oh, why? How has this life been over here?
Yeah, I think it's really nice that you're able to be cognizant of all this. And maybe just to recap your sharing here is that it seems to me that you have um, let go of expectations when it comes to friendships. And I think perhaps out of necessity, right? In the sense that you are traveling, you've left the country. And so you understand what it's like to make that decision. And so you wouldn't necessarily put the expectation on someone else to, hey, we're friends, don't leave me, all those kind of things that maybe we would have thought in the past. And I also do think the whole transactional nature of friendships is something to worth discussing as well, because I think it always seems like it's such a dirty word, right? Transaction. Or it's like, oh, you don't want to be transactional with your friends and everything. And I agree to the most point, but like there is still limits, right? Like if you show up for your friends every single time, and you are the ones that always reach out first, and you're, I don't know, paying for meals and whatever thing else you're doing in that friendship that sometimes might seem imbalanced, right? If the other person doesn't reciprocate, then I think that is somewhat grounds for, giving you a perspective on, this is perhaps not the friendship I want to have, right? You still need to set, like, what are you willing to give and what do you want to get? And, I think that is still a very important part of the journey. But I think what's really interesting, what you've identified, Kanao, is that, beyond that though, is that if you find someone that really vibes, right, or clicks, right, and maybe in Jessica's terminology with you, and you find that's part of your tribe, I found that the transaction needs to be less, right? You don't need to have an immediate transaction with them in that moment. So you don't need everything to be, split down the middle, because you know that, hey, we're all part of the same tribe. I'll help you. Someday you'll help me back, right? And it'll come around. And I think that's super interesting as well. And I'm curious, Jessica, how you would think about that, and also reflecting on Canal's like journey as well.
Yeah, I think another way I thought of understanding transactions is maybe more of an exchange. Like you said, okay, I'm here for you at this time. So then when I'm also in maybe like a less great situation, you're there for me as well. So I think it's transactional in the sense that you're putting in effort for each other, which I think was really a great point that Kanal brought up. It's like, are you putting in the effort to make time to see each other? Are you putting in the effort to, I don't know, like look out for each other? And like, if you see something that your friend would really like enjoy or would be good for them, are you sharing that? And I think that brings me back to my point of the sincerity, because I think it's possible to have a really long friendship with somebody, but if by the end they're not sincere in their interactions with you and they're not putting in the effort, I don't know. You kind of feel like, oh, okay, well, if they are not putting this friendship as importantly as I put it, then maybe like let me rethink about it. And yeah, I actually like had one experience. So then when you guys brought it up, I was like, oh, hey, yeah, I was really long time friends with this person, but then, you know, life happens and you move away from different places. And then one person doesn't put in as much effort. So then you reconsider, oh, okay, well, how do I proceed, right? Do I continue to make more effort? Do I care whether that effort's returned? Or do I, you know, take life as it is and be like, if we're not connected now, maybe we'll reconnect in the future, but I won't feel too sad or heartbroken by it.
So for me, even like I did have this experience about along how Jessica you had as well, and I actually had one of my trips after I had a revelation in that trip about, wait, this is not the friendship that I was expecting to. And at the time, I was not kind of aware of, like, I was not putting a lot of efforts to ensure, like, I understand the people around me. So that was the, I would say, got the ball rolling about. And I like kind of had to put a lot of question marks in all my relationships just to make sure that I reevaluate them with the intentionality aspect. And do I really want to be in friends with them? What is the, like, not say per se benefit, but if I'm not, am I doing too much efforts and I foreseeing that the other person is not needing that or attention or what not be the case? It's definitely a case, and maybe I'll let Conrad also pitch in some ideas or thoughts over here between before I keep on rambling and
It's all good. No, I really appreciate both of your sharings here because I think like what I thought about, especially when Jess was sharing her story, which I resonate a lot with, by the way, in both of yours, is that I think what we define as enough effort from the other side can also change over time. And I think that's really interesting, right? Sometimes we go into a friendship where, hey, at the beginning, we were very secure of ourselves, right? And we felt good about ourselves and we were okay. And so the nature of that friendship was very different than maybe something bad happened to us. And then we feel more insecure about ourselves and we're looking for support from the other person. And they're just not equipped because they never expected that to be the nature of the friendship. But as you evolved, as your life has changed, your needs of your friends have changed as well, right? And not to say that your friends needed to be there for you for that, but it can be easily construed as, hey, they're not putting enough effort or they're not there for me the way that I would be there for them. And that really hurts. I think we can all resonate with that. Certainly. It's like, hey, I know I would show up for them if they needed me. Why wouldn't they do it for me as well? And I think what's really interesting here is I want to kind of share this phenomenon maybe from the perspective from the Better Life framework, because actually I see something really interesting here. And I want to know if it kind of mirrors the experiences that you guys have had, because I'm always just looking to kind of test the theories we have and make sure that it is standard across, all walks of life. But the way I see it is, we start really looking into friendships when it comes to, the third perspective, which is winning, right? When we want things in the world and we want to get things out of the world, that's when we really look into friendships and seeing like, hey, how can being friends with this so-and-so people help me get to where I want to go, right? And you see that often in like, I don't know, the corporate setting, right? Or even in school where it's like, hey, if I'm friends with this person, they'll give me like, their notes and I'll, have good grades, right? So there's many times a very strong transactional components of it where it's like, hey, how do I get what I want? Whether it be, camaraderie or, a mutual caretaking or whatever it might be. And friendship is predicated on that. But then the next step after that is what we discussed a bit earlier, which is like, hey, you want to belong, right? The next perspective is belonging. And when you're in that perspective, it's all about, hey, how do I find my tribe? And you're willing to do things for people in your tribe as long as they indicate that, hey, I am like you, right? Whether it be a political affiliation or a racial or a nationality or whatever it might be, that you find that, hey, we are similar, and you find yourself more willing to do things for them. But again, we can see that situations happen when they don't when they act differently than what you would expect someone of that affiliation to act, then everything changes again. You're like, oh no, I thought they were this kind of person, and they don't do that anymore. And I don't want to. I feel like I wasted my time and my effort, and I don't want to, put as much effort into this relationship anymore because maybe they're not reciprocating it the same way that I thought, or maybe they're not the same person that I thought was deserving of that. But then what I found is really interesting is the next stage after that, the next perspective is systems. And when it comes to systems, I found that, it becomes like a more systematic way of thinking about it, where it's like, hey, I have this friend group for this need. I have that friend group for that need. I have, these interactions for this. When I need support, I'll go to this person. When I need answers, I'll go to this person. Like, it becomes a lot more strategic in how you place your time and your energy and which relationships you choose to nurture. Right. But then what I realized was that also wasn't super scalable. Like for me, like even with that, I realized that, hey, yes, even if I categorize people in the respective buckets and I, do that kind of friendship, you still want people to be around you and you still expect things out of them, like even if within that constraints, right? And they're always going to still disappoint you at some point because ultimately you got to look out for yourself. No one can read your mind, no one can understand you fully, and no one can actually be fully cognizant of everything you need. And so I think the sixth perspective, which was letting go, is when I realized that I needed to, go within and take care of myself. And I was doing like this whole big loop of I try to take care of someone else so that they could eventually do the same thing back for me. And that's really long-winded, right? Like that's like why have a middleman when I can take care of myself directly and I can love myself directly. And of course, like zooming through more of the other perspectives, is that, at some point, though, yes, you can take care of yourself, but you still hopefully need to survive in the world and you want other people to be there for you. So you set boundaries on how you want your friendships to be. But again, that will be crossed. So maybe you could be curious about like, hey, how come you're not there for me when I need you to be? And like, what do you do? And then, yeah, so I'm just curious how your perspectives are on that.
Yeah, definitely. But I do believe the fact that we know human beings are like social animals. Like we definitely want people around us to kind of, maybe just for the sake of that bond that needs to be there just to keep us, going forward. But how do we define the bond? That's how, that changes from person to person. That's what we are trying to discuss here as well. Uh, for me, having any kind of a give or take relationship, it's always going to be complicated. Uh, so having that mindset of that, it could be in a certain, you have those kind of a give and take relationships in a very small subset or specifics, one which you are aware has a factor of, being open and growth focused, where you can make sure that if something is not working or something is things are changing, the nature of the relationship is changing in some format or the other, one of the other person understands it, can see it, can inform, can discuss about it if there's a discussion needed. But at least the intention, it that kind of healthy nature, a healthy relationship will be helpful for both parties. But expecting that from everybody is not something I believe. It has to be only very few set of friends which you are aware and both of you are aware of it. Both of you are aware of the discussions when it's need to be done, when it's not to be done, when to be there, what not to be there. They know the boundaries, and like whenever things change, things will be up to date and informed. But for the rest of them, it's more of like even just being there for a drink. Just all. That's all. This is how I treat it as well, just to make sure that no hard feelings if things are working out. No hard feelings if you don't have time. Everybody nowadays in this day and age, we like because everyone is preoccupied because there are a lot of things that we can work on. A lot of things that we want to work on as well with our own creative side, our own work side. There are a lot of different things, and everybody's really much interesting. Uh, so that's my 2 cents on the that idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually, when you were both talking, I was kind of thinking back to all the friendships I have and how they kind of progressed. And I think it's really interesting because when I was younger, all the friends I made, and like even now, are really from a more like perspective 3 or 4, where you're trying to get something done or you're in the same location and place at the same time. So you like make friends and then so you're part of a tribe. But then, so that's how a lot of my friendships are now because I encounter them at work. And then, oh, we become friends. And then as you interact more, hey, we have this in common. We also have this other thing in common. We can talk about it more. And then it progresses into like, hey, I can really connect with this person. We have this bond. But then when I think back to really like the long term friendships that I have from primary school, from secondary school, I actually think they've evolved through the perspectives into maybe 6 or 7 now because well, I think first of all, like for at least for my high school friends, we've like gone through a lot of things together. We've gone through like school together with some of my friends. We were also dance buddies. So we went through like the whole like performance and like dance thing together. So there was that bond built there. And I think it was a 3 or 4 then. But then as we all moved on to university, it was maybe like a 5. This is like my high school friend and I want to connect with them every month. So then I will schedule in my calendar, hey, every month I will connect with my high school friend. Um, and then when we all graduated from undergrad, it was like, hey, you know, everybody's busy with their own life. If we see each other in the same city, we will. If we don't, we don't. And I think now maybe a 7, maybe a still 6, but I still kind of try to add it to my calendar. I actually have a goal this year saying like every month I want to talk or like video call with a longtime friend. And if they're busy, it's okay. But like I'm setting that intention and I want to do that.
So, this episode is proudly supported by the Coix3 Family Foundation and specifically the Coix3 Toolbox. It's a suite of all our best tools that help you level up and unlock your potential in life. And one example of these tools is the My Network Tracker, which is, you can kind of think of it like a personal relationship management tracker, right? That helps you keep track of your relationships that you want to cultivate, keep track of important details like, you know, their birthdays, their favorite colors, their kids' names, their parents' names, anything that you think you might want to keep track of to help you stay intentional with your relationship with them and to help you be reminded when the time comes to do something nice for them that would help you build up your relationship more. And also, it comes with a lot of amazing features like helping you set your affection scores, right? So you know exactly how much you want to interact with your relationship and how deep their relationship has already been.
Yeah, I think it's great because, like I mentioned in the podcast, I wanted to be more intentional with how I reach out to close friends of mine. So having the tracker is really useful for just reminding myself, hey, oh, it's been a while. Let's reach out if they haven't reached out. And just to like note down what's the last big life event that's happened for them. I should maybe follow up and check in. So it's been really useful for me that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same goes for me. It's like really helped me to kind of ensure I remember the context that we had discussion beforehand because the fact that all these templates are much more like customizable, it's flexible so that we can modify it to our own needs or what we value more, or like we can add on, we can modify. It helps me kind of customize it for my own needs, and the fact that I can actually keep a track of like the context that we had over the past few conversations to ensure that I don't lose those context, which is the big, as Jessica mentioned, the big things. So I really kind of helped. It really helps me to keep a track of it and keeping making sure that I'm being intentional about the people that I'm being connected to, and they also feel the fact that the person remembers, recollects in some way or the other. They are like they want to make sure we connect with each other and like keeping those things in mind.
Amazing. Well, thanks guys for sharing that experience. And absolutely, the My Network Tracker is part of the Be Intentional package that includes a whole suite of different tools and templates to help you be intentional in your life, like finding the success that you want, like tracking the relationships that you have in your life. It's really being intentional of all those things that you want to do to build them up over time. And it's all for free. So check them out in the link below or at tools.x3.family. And of course, you can also check out all the other tools to help you live your best life and unlock your potential. So with that, let's get back to the episode.
When you guys were talking about like the different perspectives and like give and take and like where you progress into, I think it also ties into like when you met this person and how are you progressing through your life stage and kind of like what do you need from a friend? Because I don't know, like has your guys' definition of a friend changed when you were younger to when you're like now? Because I think the definition of friend is very broad because we also have like work friends, school friends at a fitness class.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe just to add on to that, because I really appreciate both of you guys for sharing on, and especially with the perspectives analogy too, because I think it's helpful. It helps us really recognize, right, the difference in how things have changed over time. And I think one thing that I really wanted to resonate with was I think relationships will always evolve, right? And you might have started being friends first with someone because it was convenient, right? You're in the same area, same place, same time, same school, same job, and eventually it grows to something more. You realize that you have things in common, right? Which go to a 4, right? And then maybe you drift apart a bit, but you set up time to meet recurringly, right? Monthly, and that's a 5. 6, like you said, you like, hey, we're doing our own thing. Let's let go. It's okay, right? But I think where 7 comes in, and I'm really excited to talk more about that because I think that is really the aha moment I had, which was, you know, um, really defining what you need from someone, and being clear about that. And I think that ties in with what Kunal is saying. It's like, hey, have those really good friends that know exactly why they're in your life and why you're in their life. And like, I think that's a good thing. That doesn't make it transactional per se, but that's just like, this is, the bond that holds us together. This is the glue that keeps us tight, right? This is why we're on this earth, in a sense, to be each other's, comrade in this. And I think that is like really special as a connection. And I think obviously the relationship can still evolve, right? There's 8 and there's 9, right? But I think that like is already like a huge step for so many people because I think it's also one that respects the boundary of the other person, where it's like, hey, you have your own life too. Yes, I'm here for this and you're here for me for that. But our life will always still have its own ebb and flow. And we may not always have the right mental space and the right time and the right energy to be all those things for another person. But yeah, like, to answer your question on what a friend means, like, I think definitely has evolved over time for me. But one big word that comes to my mind when it comes to friendship is like comrades, right? People that I will be traveling this life together with, and we'll be sharing in each other's experiences, and we'll be supporting each other along the way. And that support can be very diverse, can be in any way that matters for us at that moment. Yeah.
Super interesting. So when you were kind of talking about that, something that came to my mind, and I think it's pretty relevant to what's happening in the world, is that a lot of people, as they grow older, they have fewer and fewer friends, and they have fewer and fewer close friends. And I understand it from like a biological and like science perspective because I study that, but I'm wondering from from the Better Life Framework side, like how would you maybe like interpret that? Because it is a phenomenon that we're seeing statistically. So it's very interesting to discuss, I
Yeah.
think.
I mean, I'll definitely answer that, but I think also Kunal probably wants to add a lot to the conversation, so I'll give him a chance too. But just to answer that, because like I think it's really exciting too, because I've seen like my own parents go through their share of friendships now, um, and what I can say is that like it's very aligned with what I observe with the Better Life Framework in general, where um, I think there's a limit to how much each perspective can cultivate a friendship. And let me explain what that means, right? There's only so many friends you can cultivate at a transactional perspective, right? There's just so many, there's just like a limit on that. Like either you saturate the environment that you're in, right? You only have so many neighbors, you only have so many, work colleagues, and et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately you only want so much things out of them, right? And eventually you don't want the same things you want. And then you keep evolving through that. So what I see is that as you grow up, as you level up, the number of friends that you keep within the winning perspective changes. It lowers dramatically because your wants are more satisfied in general. You don't need so much. You don't need so much other people to help you with your wants. You're self-sufficient. Tribe as well. Like I think a lot of people keep friends within a tribe, but what I can see is that a lot of people, as they immerse themselves more into a community, you end up seeing more of the other sides of the community that don't really speak to you. And then you start distancing yourself from the community as well, right? Whether it be a religious affiliation or a neighborhood affiliation or whatever it might be. There's so many times when we see that as we grow up, like we don't really, tie ourselves to them as much anymore. And just because someone is the same religion doesn't mean that they're going to be our best friend, right? So again, we start looking away from those places to find our friendships and to maintain those friendships. And of course, we go to like our systems thinking like, hey, yeah, let's keep a schedule, but hey, we have kids, right? We get families, and we're always going to maximize our time with our families. And even if we set up recurring time, and I know some people like do like what Tuesday poker nights, right, with your friends, or they go and they do like drinking parties every weekend, or maybe karaoke every month, or like maybe a friend vacation every year. Like there's things you can do certainly, but it's still not going to be to the degree of what you could do in your 20s and your 30s, right? And I think that is also contributing to the decrease in friends at the systems perspective. And obviously letting go is all about, not having friends anymore, right? Going within and like, maybe you don't need so many friends to support you all the time. But then I think as people get into 7, which is where they have these like really amazing deep friendships, where you just see that they like have built this amazing unshakable bond with someone, and they just know that they are there for each other and for that reason and in each other's lives. And I think that you just need a few to really have a deep, meaningful connection with others, and you don't need like hundreds and hundreds of friends. And I think there's many stories and songs certainly to talk about having hundreds of friends and fans, but no one that you really feel connected to. And I think that is very much, the nature of how those things go. Yeah. But Kanal, would love to hear from you and hear what you have to say.
Well, definitely. It's a very good point that like I just maybe brought it up. I believe like with aging, especially with the fact that everybody has certain set of people around. Again, going back to the same thought process that I have like learned, uh, is the fact that people who have some constant set of environment variables around them, and which is constants around them, and they don't usually wouldn't want to have a lot of variables, is because as we age, we want to have a little bit more stability per se, because there are different focus and responsibilities that has been added on to people's life. It's not like it's not easy to juggle a lot of different things, your own hobbies, your own work, your own life, your family lives, and then our friends as well. So a lot of different aspects that comes into the picture. But I believe it should be open. It's not like you should actively look for a new member of your like community or like in your path. But then the fact that there has to be a factor of ensuring that you are open enough to be having able to have those conversations will definitely add value to your life in some form or the other. Give it time for just understanding it. Maybe it could be one conversation, it could be like 5 hours, 10 hours in total, or across different conversations, multiple conversations. But the fact is it has to be a little bit of more open-minded to just ensure you are adding more value and perspectives as you grow. So that's my thought process for when like aging as well. It's not easy, definitely. It's just that the fact that the people need to be self-aware of, this is where I am, this is my group, this is my constant set of friends. I'm happy to keep it open. So the intent, the fact is, the person should be aware of their surroundings, aware of themselves, that I still want to keep on growing. talking to this random person that I came across in some parties or some place, and believe he has some opinion which I'm not aware of, or it's something that I want to understand more about. That growth mindedness will actually help a lot as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really well said, Kanal. And maybe just repeating back, like basically, having the structure is important for us for stability, right? Where we want to like eventually get that group of friends or maybe few friends that are there for us for all these, things that we want them to be there for, that support circle that we need. But opening, keeping the door open for new experiences and new friends. And I saw Jessica smiling in that moment because I know she already knows what I'm thinking about, which is that's the eighth perspective, right? Being curious and being open and asking questions and really opening yourself up to friends that you may never have expected to be with. And like I said, even just a conversation, right, doesn't need to be a long extended friendship, but even that conversation could open your eyes to so many things and so much new perspectives and so many new ways of seeing the world.
Thank you both for sharing. I think as you guys were explaining, going through like the different thoughts that you had on it, I kind of came to like a new conclusion for myself, for friends at least, that not all friends and not everyone I meet, I need to be super good friends with them or I need to have great relationships with them. Sometimes they're like, they may be less deep relationships. Sometimes they're deeper. Other times you guys may be able to go deeper in one topic and not the other. And that's okay. I think it's more like enjoying the moments that you guys are sharing together. And then, I don't know, if a friend needs help and you're able to help, yeah, why not? Just help. So I think, yeah, as a conclusion I just came to as you guys were sharing.
Yeah, and especially it really helps to like have friendship with no strings attached that I really believe on. The intention that um, especially people should not feel burdened about the fact that this might potentially happen someday. I Because that actually helps alleviate things, especially when it's a like early stage of your bond being formed. My parents, both of them, they are currently alone in their hometown, right? And because both their kids are now working outside, and I've seen them grow very much in their like how they formed communities or friendships in the last 3 to 5 years. Like I'm parting the COVID period where nobody was been able to meet to each other, but even apart from that, they like just the morning walk. They used to go out for a walk in the park, and they have formed such a strong bonds right now. They go out traveling every day. They're like, wait, why didn't you come today? Like, what's the problem? Are you okay? They're like that. Maybe that could be a concern, like because like everybody in there is the same phase of life. But the idea is, it's they are like the bonds have formed for everybody, not just them, but even they have formed and created a new environment ecosystem around themselves, just because at least I believe my parents uh they had that open-mindedness to be able to have incorporate other people in their lives, and they were open enough. They wanted to learn from them as well, and they had different experiences in their life thereafter, like because they are moving around, going to different cities, different places with them, and like enjoying in a different way than you would do it with the kids, right? So that form of friendship, even at that stage in life, it actually helps to have a different experiences. Again, with the fact that they were open and like wanted to have that, cultivate those bonds.
Love what you shared. And I think it's fantastic for your parents to have built up new friendships, especially at the age that they're at. But I'm curious, like, how would you categorize those friendships? What makes those friendships strong, right? And I think that is the basis of where I think about a lot of friendships, which is like, hey, what is our friendship predicated on? Like, what would you say to that? Like, what do you think keeps their friendship strong?
Again, and like as we were discussing before, it's like even with our friendships, it's more of the fact that what is the common factors that brings us together, right? That's how usually of bonds are formed. Because it has to be both ways, Steve. It's not like, oh, I'm interested that you have a lot of information and I want to learn from you. But if it's not from the other way, the idea is it's not going to last long. It's just the information exchange, and then you're off. Definitely, there in their case as well, the fact that the bond that formed was over common activities. Started off with like yoga, meditation in the morning, walking in morning, just a simple breakfast, like tea, cup of tea within the like group. Uh, and the conversation started to roll. And usually, when conversation started to roll, and everybody was so open to kind of share their experiences, share how like from where background they come, what their states are, or the state of lives that they are in. Everybody had, I would say, some common factors along this. Apart from the time being that everybody has like 1.5 hours in the morning to give to the other person, like the other couple, everybody around. The idea is they have common life goals, life statuses, life things that they are ready to share. After that, once the bond starts forming, that's when they like then they start sharing the experiences. Because after that bond has been formed, then it's like you create new memories. That's the intention. So first, it's more about like you just sharing my experience, my past, my where the cities that I have been to. This is the experience I had in that travel, for example, or I went up against like I had this issue in the city, or like how did I got it solved, for example. So common, I would say, each factors around them. And same goes for us as well. Like right now, I'm trying to connect with a lot of people in who are like in Bangalore, where I'm currently just came, and this is the first time like full time working here in my career, and everybody has their established circles. How do I try to get imbibe into them? Or like I would say connect to them. Maybe not like maybe just one of them, or maybe the whole circle. Whatever be the case, it's not that I'm picky about it. But the fact is, there has to be a common factor. It could be, for example, where, like marriages, like because a lot of people in my age is around that they are discussing or how want to get married or kids. So like, that could be one of the common factors that people are like feeling a little bit, let's say, happy about it, feeling something exhausting about it. They want to kind of share. They want to get opinions from as well. So again, the bond usually comes, at least that I have foreseen, if a new things has to be cultivated, it has to be based on something which is common. And if when like Jessica was saying, it clicks, and the idea is whether like the other person, you understand the situation, the person wants to vent out, just vent it out. If the person want to have some opinions and suggestions, basically you're able to judge that, like this kind of when the bonds are getting formed, like both of you are in that growth mindset of ensuring that both of us are understanding each other and the situation, and we want to contribute because I have some advice which I can give you, or you have some advice, or just listen. So the idea is both of them are in this kind of a same, some in some form or the other, same state of ensuring that the other person we are trying to help.
Yeah, I think like you have a good summary there, certainly. And I think like that's actually one thing that makes me really excited because what I'm trying to do is like crack the code, right? On like how to um, build friendships in my life to, reduce disappointment, right? And most of the disappointment comes from my own broken expectations, right? So there's a lot to be done there, certainly, but also to make sure that we build them with the most integrity and the most love that we can. Because I think at the core of all of it, what we're trying to do here is actually all three of us here are givers, right? We're starting off with the assumption and the expectation that we want to do our best. And all we want to do is just to find people that we can do our best for, right? I think that is 100%, 1000% what we want to do. However, right, as we have evolved through life, we realize that not everyone, right, is deserving of that treatment. Not everyone wants to reciprocate that treatment, right? And also the path to building up anybody to be that kind of reciprocal friendship that is so deep and so giving on both sides, it's a very long journey to get there, right? You have to start somewhere. You have to start, by being in the right place at the right time, having the same motivations, might be in the same walking group, right, as your parents have, right, or in the same school or in the same workplace, and eventually cultivating that over time. And I think what's been really exciting for me as I listen to you guys and as I reflect on it for myself as well is that I think there is a progression to it, right? Where it's like, hey, we should go into every um, conversation, open minded, right? This could be a new friendship, it could be not, right? It could be something that will build up over time. But I'm going to do whatever I can to give, right, in this moment, right? Whatever I can give, right? Whether it be the time or whether it be the attention, right? But showing my best effort, right? It's like, hey, I'm here, right? If this is a good one, then it's a good one. And then I think also respecting ourselves to have the boundary of which that, hey, if we feel, right, that whatever we need in our life, the support system that we need at some point, and we need to set that threshold for ourselves, everyone is different. If that isn't met, right? And not to say like, hey, you're cut, you're not on my team, right? But like, it's more like, hey, you know what? These are the things I do need from someone who's close to me in my life, right? And I have the choice. We have the choice to be with anyone we want. We can spend an hour with anybody, and we want to spend it with people that help us, in a sense, don't have to always make you feel good per se, right? But at least, we know that we can be our best selves with them. We can grow and learn. We can have fun. We can enjoy ourselves. And I think that is something that to me is really the crux of this whole conversation and really makes it all come together. Yeah. I don't know if Jessica wants to add anything too.
No, it's good. It sounds great. Actually, my parents have a very, I think, similar experience with your parents. Kana is actually really, really heartwarming to see. So my mom like made a friend at this place that she met, and then it's been a few years already, and now they actually go on trips together. And I think that is so lovely. Like she didn't know this friend in high school or before, but really she just met this new friend maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, and now they're flying to like France, to all these places together. And it's great that they've built this bond up to not just like connect in the first place, but to be so open and to be so excited to like make new memories together and to learn new things together. And I think, yeah, it's just great to see. So really resonated when you shared that, Canal.
I want to add one point on that on the expectations part. So, like I like especially when the bonds are formed, right, I have actually seen, and again because of the fact that with friendship I have done this over and over again. So especially during the form, and but I am trying to streamline it just to not to take it as a person as I would say on the face value of it. But the expectations aspect is especially during the conversation, as you said, we are going with open minded with the game nature. Uh, Definitely having no expectation, especially for the first few, like some period of time, that's definitely has to be there. Till what time, what or like some KPI which kind of says time or some experience which says that now this is the point where I should kind of give it a say that we want to get this connected forward. It's quite similar to a dating phase as well. That we won't be disappointed. That's the intention. The idea is not to get disappointed with any kind of thing.
I get what you're saying completely, Canal. And I might add a little bit of science to it in the sense that I think I have a clear way that I can differentiate it versus like, hey, just X amount of time and then, start having expectations. I think 100% from the baseline have zero expectations. That's already from the beginning. And never have expectations. I think that's something that it took me a long time to get to, right? And it's hard because, hey, even if you build up a long-term friendship with someone and you've been there with them every time they had an issue, right? And then suddenly you have an issue and they're not there for you in the way that you wanted them to be, dude, that sucks. That feels so bad. And I think I want to be empathetic to everyone out there who's feeling that because that doesn't feel good. And I want you to know that I know that too. But what I want to communicate is that what I've realized is you need to let go of any expectation you have of anybody being there for you if when you need it. It's okay to set boundaries, but it's not okay to have expectations. And those two are different. Expectations is when you get disappointed that they're not there for you when you wanted them to be. Boundaries is saying to someone that says, hey, you know what? I don't mind being there for you, right? This is something I'm willing to give, but I need someone to be there for me. And if you can't be there for me, I'd rather know now than later. So now when I go into a friendship, obviously it's not like I sit down and say, hey, these are the things I need from you, and A B C D E F G. No, of course not. But I do think that my style and many people's style of previously just waiting for someone else to get it. It's like, oh, I've paid for X amount of meals now. It's your turn now. You get it, right? Like that doesn't always work. And I use financial as like an explainer, but like I'm sure there's many other examples of this. It could be any kind of effort you give and you don't feel like it's reciprocated. A lot of people just wait, or worse, they just let it go, and then it's resentful in their mind, and then ends up just breaking the relationship, right? The friendship that you have. What I instead am striving to do, right, is to communicate these things up front, so that, again, not from a expectation point of view, not from like, hey, I'm disappointed you didn't do this, man, but it's more like, hey, you know what? I would really appreciate it if this was done this way, and this is the kind of friendship I'm looking for. And if you're not that, that's okay, right? And you're not necessarily giving them ultimatum, but you're just saying that, hey, this is what my self-respect is for me, and the kind of relationship I'm looking for with friends and anyone else in my life. And this is what it means to be a close friend. If this is the thing you want to engage with, let's do it, right? And I think that also can take away the, because I've also had the experience where it's like, hey, you build up something over years, right? And then you have this in your mind, this thought of what this friend is, and then you start laying expectations out of nowhere to them, right? To you, it's like, oh, it's about time. I'm gonna put my expectations down. But to them, they're like, what the heck, man? None of this was ever discussed. I wasn't ready for this. And I think that causes a lot of conflict that could be avoided if those things were communicated up front. Yeah.
But it's honestly may not be natural for a lot of people, right? So it's not natural thing that you want to discuss this with your friends. And but again, the fact that we are trying to highlight is, if there are disappointments of people's life, if they are facing on it, then it's better to kind of make sure that, think again, as you very like rightly put, boundaries are properly defined. May not be like, as we are saying, like you write down an essay, you define how the boundaries are. Don't even have to like,
this is the transaction. You can lend me this much money, and I'm going to lend you this much money.
Yeah. But in some way, the expectations are like, properly high, like, respectfully shared and like reciprocated
Yes,
in both
of course.
aspects. It's true for any kind of relationship, not just friendship. Just like, it could be your parents, it could be your like work colleagues, it could be anybody that you meet. Just, this is clear cut expectations that we have. Just try to, friendship and a bond, just put it in a way that, you would want somebody else to put it to you. Not to be too much direct, not to be too much negative about things. That I'm already foreseeing something, it's not going to work out for long term. Let's just keep it in this. But basically, not to portray the negative aspects as well. It's just the fact that at this point in time, I foresee this is how it is. For example, you don't need to be like quite direct that it's not going to happen in future at all. It's the same thing goes with dating as well, right?
I think communication is just the main
Communication
thing.
is
Just
always the key.
communicate.
Yeah, communication is always the key. And I like, it's not easy for people. And even I am currently going to that phase. Even what we're discussing right now, it may seem to be a little bit like, pointer systematic process, but obviously by default, there is emotions attached to it. And ensure that you understand that aspect of whatever communication that you're having with anyone. It goes without like, saying in any kind of communication that is there. And I am trying to work on it.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much for, this amazing conversation. And is there any last thoughts that you guys would like to share? Anybody going through their own trials and tribulations with relationship with friends? And maybe we can have Jessica go first, and then now you can add on after.
Wow. I think one of the biggest insights I got from friendships, and that actually made me kind of accept that it's okay for friendships to come and go, is that somebody told me that friendships are like the 4 seasons. You first meet is spring, you build up your bond, your relationship is summer. And then, because of external factors, maybe you guys change. It becomes fall, and then you start to contact less. And then maybe you enter like a winter period, and then you guys don't kind of connect anymore. And then before, I thought that was like the end of it, and it's okay, we enter winter. But then now I'm like, hey, but we have the next year. So you never know. Maybe you'll reconnect in the future. But I think, yeah, just, I think take things as they go. And if you can build a deeper bond with somebody, great. If not, there are probably other opportunities in the future to build that bond too.
It's a really very nice way of putting it. Really touched my heart as well. For me, I'm kind of in that phase as well. If you like in the longer period of time, the winter phase, and I believe what I am currently kind of ensuring that I am put a little bit efforts as well, just to make sure I be in touch with people I really want to be in touch with. It's again at the end of the day, it's two-way street, right? And the intentionality factor has to be there from both the parties. So I'm trying to be kind of more of in like making sure keeping a track, or maybe being intentional about making sure I haven't talked to you for a period of time. Let's do it. Like even because especially for the people who are like they're the small inner circle that is there. I am really want to be making sure that the boundaries are kind of like laid out in some way or the other. I've been able to kind of connect with them, keep a kind of the channel open. So that's something that I'm really working on, and I hope that this is something that everybody kind of ensures that they keep on working on it. Obviously, there are different learnings that keeps on going as well. Uh, yeah, so that's pretty much it from my side.
Thank you guys so much. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone at home, for joining us for this episode. And I hope it resonated with you. Let us know in the comments what you think about it, and share about your experience with relationship with your friends and how that's evolved and your perspective has changed over time. But with that in mind, please take care. See you guys next week. Bye bye.